All right, so we're going to look at knowledge check 12.6.1. And so to do so, let's go ahead and load the tidyr and dplyr packages. And this knowledge check focuses on table 5 within tidyr. So you can see we have 4 columns. We have country, century, year, and rate. And the first question is this data untidy? And if so, why? Well, we actually have a couple problems here. Just like the last knowledge check, we have an issue where we have a rate column that combines 2 bits of information. It combines the cases and then the population. And it's those values are separated by a / here. Now, we also have another problem where we have 2 columns, century and year, that are splitting the values of like an overall year that we care about. So really we have 2 columns that are better represented as a single year. So we want to go ahead and fix this, and to do that we have 2 steps. So let's go down number 2, and this is what number 2 addresses here. And it says to basically tidy up this data by uniting the necessary columns and then separating the necessary column. So let's start with what we did in the last knowledge check, where we take our rate column and we want to go ahead and separate this into 2 columns, which are going to be cases and then population. And we can go ahead, let's call separate, just to be explicit, with the non-alphanumeric character that we want to separate these values by. And if you recall, we're going to use convert equals true. What convert equals true does is when we separate these, it will coerce the data type to integers, where if we did not add convert equals true, it would keep them as character values. All right, so we did the first step. We separated the rate column into 2 columns that represent cases and population. And the last thing we want to do is go ahead and we want to unite the century and the year column. So what we want to do is we want to unite our columns into an overall year column. And then what we want to do is just feed it the name century and year. And those are the 2 columns that we want to combine. Now, you can see when we do this, it actually adds a separator of our 2 values, right? And that separator, the default separator, if we go ahead and take a look at unite, the default separator we can see here is an underscore. So what we can go ahead and do is we can say, well, I want my separator actually to be nothing. So I'm just going to add a space. Or 2 quotes with no space. And then now we have forced the 2 values to be right up against one another. All right, number 3 here says, using the pipe operator to chain together a sequence of functions, perform number 2 and then compute the cases to population ratio for for each country by year. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. We're going to take this exact same code and we're going to build onto it. And all we need to do here, now that we have our cases and population broken out along with the country and year column, we can just go ahead and we can mutate, and I'm going to call this ratio equals cases divided by population. And now we have our ratio column.